Welcome to Discover U Radio's Discussions. The full spectrum. The full spectrum. Discover U Radio's Discussions. The full spectrum is proudly sponsored by Counterpoint Publishing and is directed and produced under the guidance of Will Stenner.
Your guide to customer service addresses the couple scam. That's where the wife drops off in the morning, the husband picks up at night and complains about the bill. Your Guide to Customer Service by Brandon Eagle. You can get it on Amazon and Kindle.
Discover U Radio's Discussions. The Brief.
This is The Brief on episode 45 of Discover U Radio's discussion segment, covering Chapter 2 of Brandon Eagle's book, Your Guide to Customer Service, the Mirror Edition. We've all met last-minute Sally, right? The entitled customer who shows up after the doors are locked expecting you to reopen the shop. Holding your ground is crucial for your sanity, because expecting a closed service department to fire back up is literally like shaking an unplugged vending machine. First, beware the customer logic loop. Late arrivals fall into a time-blind trap, thinking, well, I'm here, my car is here, therefore I get my car. They ignore that systems are totally shut down. So why do they think our posted hours are just a rough estimate? Because they view off-the-clock staff as vending machines that should dispense on demand. Second, here's how you stay firm. Stop personalizing their emergency. Their bad planning isn't your moral failure. Use the locked building as your boundary, and don't negotiate with guilt. Use this calm script. I understand it's frustrating. Our systems are closed, and we can't release vehicles after hours. We'll take care of you as soon as we open. See? That's empathy in the tone, but steel in the policy. Finally, let's cover the do's and don'ts. Do, let the lesson land, respect your time, and let the lock do its job. Don't break the process just this once, or act as an emergency exit. Hold boundaries with phrases like, we're closed for tonight, and we'll be happy to help you first thing tomorrow. Coming up next is The Deep Dive, with Robert Simmons and Rita Fox, as they discuss Chapter 2, The Last Minute Pickup, from Brandon Eagle's book titled Your Guide to Customer Service, the Mirror Edition.
Your invoice is ready, your paperwork is all together, and you're ready to collect payment. And then all of a sudden, boom, the coupon Nazi throws a bunch of coupons at you. Your Guide to Customer Service by Brandon Eagle. You can find it on Amazon and Kindle.
Stay tuned as Robert Simmons and Rita Fox go into a deep dive.
Your Guide to Customer Service by Brandon Eagle addresses the diagnostic denier. That's the customer that doesn't want to pay the diagnostic after he got it. Get your copy at Amazon and Kindle. Your Guide to Customer Service by Brandon Eagle.
You can sure get a lot of information out of those short briefs. Welcome to episode number 45 of The Deep Dive, where we are going to get into the source material of Chapter 2, titled The Last Minute Pickup, from Brandon Eagle's book, called Your Guide to Customer Service, the Mirror Edition.
Right, and it's a really fascinating chapter.
It really is. I mean, we're basically looking at this intense daily clash, right? This collision between customer entitlement and employee boundaries.
Yeah, exactly. It happens almost universally at the very end of the workday.
So whether you are a service worker who has, felt that sudden spike of anxiety when a customer starts banging on a locked door while you're just trying to get home.
Or honestly, if you're a customer who occasionally finds yourself running 5 minutes late and you're wondering why everyone inside is making such a massive deal out of it.
Right. So our mission today is to dissect the psychology of that, the systemic realities of closing time. And to do that, I want to start by firmly planting you, the listener, in the physical reality of this moment. Let's step into the shoes of a service advisor. The source text from Brandon Eagle paints this incredibly vivid sensory picture. The day is officially done. The final repair order, which the industry calls an RO, has been finalized.
Right.
And I just wanted to linger on the atmosphere in that room for a second. The constant grating ringing of the multi-line phones has finally stopped.
Finally,
The computers are logging off. The overhead lights are dimmed to that sort of half-power security setting,
Yeah, and the physical relief there is palpable. Eagle notes that advisors take what he calls that first deep breath of relief that only service people understand.
Right.
And we really need to unpack what that breath actually signifies, because throughout an 8 or 10-hour shift, a service advisor is basically performing.
Yeah, performing is the perfect word for it.
Right. They are managing hundreds of micro-interactions, absorbing customer anxieties about really expensive car repairs, translating technical jargon from the mechanics back to the customer.
It's a lot of emotional labor.
A massive amount. It's an act of sustained emotional labor, maintaining that professional, welcoming facade. So when the main doors finally lock, that physiological shift happens. Shoulders drop.
The customer service smile dissolves.
Exactly. The smile just vanishes into a resting face. The advisor is no longer a representative of a corporate brand. They're transitioning back into a regular human being with an actual life outside those walls.
And it is precisely in that vulnerable moment of transition that our antagonist appears. The text introduces us to last minute Sally or Larry, depending on the day.
It's always a Sally or a Larry.
Right. And what strikes me as so bizarre about the description of Sally pulling into the parking lot is the utter lack of urgency.
Oh, yeah.
Because if I know I'm arriving somewhere right at the wire, I'm practically jogging. I mean, I'm sweating.
Oh, totally. Me too.
But the book says there is, quote, no rush, no apology, no awareness, just this casual, leisurely glide into a parking space.
And that lack of urgency is a really crucial behavioral tell. It reveals this profound disconnect in how the consumer perceives shared reality.
How so?
Well, Sally walks up to the main glass door. The hours of operation are clearly posted in bold vinyl lettering right there at eye level.
You literally can't miss them.
Right. She looks through the tinted glass. She sees the dark lobby. She might even see the advisor inside, visibly putting on a winter coat or, grabbing their keys off the desk.
Yeah.
And any objective observer would process those visual cues and conclude, oh, I missed the window. The business is closed. But Sally's brain executes this incredible gymnastics routine to avoid that conclusion.
Because accepting that reality means accepting inconvenience. And I feel like the modern consumer is just allergic to inconvenience.
Very true.
So the physical actions that follow are almost comical, but as the text points out, deeply frustrating for the person on the inside.
Yeah, the cupped hands.
Yes. Sally knocks on the glass. When the lock doesn't magically disengage, she cups her hands around her eyes and peers through the dark glass. The specific imagery Eagle uses, calling the customer a confused raccoon, is just perfect.
It's so accurate. And then they jiggle the handle a second time.
Right, like testing to see if the laws of physics have altered in the last 3 seconds.
Exactly. And then comes the most infuriating part. They start waving frantically at the staff who are very clearly off the clock.
Yeah, and this is the critical juncture where boundary testing turns into a boundary violation.
Yeah.
Because for the seasoned service advisor, the immediate instinct, which is honed by years of getting burned, is to pretend they do not see the waving customer.
Just look down, keep walking.
Right, because legally and mentally, the employee is off the clock. But the late customer refuses to accept that invisible barrier. The lengths they will go to, which Eagle categorizes as the sneak in, are staggering.
They really are. They stop treating the business like a retail establishment and start casing it like they are planning a heist.
That is exactly what it sounds like. They circle the perimeter of the building looking for a weakness, testing side doors, bay doors, employee entrances.
They will actively exploit human reflex, too. Like, a common tactic described in the text is loitering near the massive overhead doors of the service bays.
Oh, right. Waiting for a technician.
Exactly. They wait for a tired technician who is walking out to their truck.
Yeah.
The technician pushes the exit door open and, out of sheer human politeness, holds the door open for a split second.
Just a reflex.
Right, a polite reflex. And the customer tailgates them right into the restricted area, or they'll seek out the newest employee.
The rookie.
The rookie who hasn't yet learned the harsh realities of retail boundaries, and they'll leverage a sad story to get that employee to unlock a side door.
Okay, let me play devil's advocate for a second here.
Go for it.
Because a car is an incredibly vital asset. It's usually the second most expensive thing a person owns, and they need it to function in society. So if I'm listening to this, I might think, okay, the advisor is tired. But isn't the core of customer service about occasionally going above and beyond? Why is drawing such a hard, unyielding line at closing time so universally recommended in this book?
Yeah.
I mean, is it fair to say the customer's lack of planning becomes a direct assault on the advisor's personal life?
That is a completely fair question, and it's the exact trap that new managers fall into all the time.
Right.
To answer it, we really have to look at the real-world stakes for the employee, which the source material lays out very clearly. Protecting personal time isn't just about, wanting to go sit on a couch and watch television.
Yeah.
It's about the fundamental logistics of a working adult's life. When that customer breaches the building, they are demanding that the advisor's life instantly pause.
And the text gives great concrete examples of what pausing actually costs the employee.
Yeah.
We're talking about an advisor who might be rushing out the door to pick up a child before their daycare facility closes.
Yeah.
And if you have kids, daycare late fees are not forgiving.
Oh, they are brutal.
They're astronomical, often charged by the minute.
Mm-hmm.
And they come with the threat of expulsion if it happens too often.
Exactly. The advisor might be rushing to a specialist doctor's appointment that took 3 months to schedule. They might be trying to salvage a dinner reservation booked weeks in advance for a spouse's birthday. Or, honestly, they might just want to get home to decompress so they don't burn out and quit the industry entirely. When the customer forces their way in, they are implicitly stating, "My failure to plan my afternoon is now more important than your family, your health, and your finances."
Man, when you frame it that way, it strips away the illusion of good customer service and reveals it as a hostile act.
It really is.
Because when the customer knocks on the glass, they just see a uniform.
Yeah.
They don't see the daycare late fees or the waiting spouse. They just see a mechanism to get their keys.
Right, but the employee sitting on the other side feels trapped, like a hostage.
Yeah. The customer's lack of planning literally becomes a direct assault on the advisor's personal life.
And assault might sound like a strong word, but in terms of psychological boundaries, it is accurate. The posted hours on the door represent a social contract.
Right.
By ignoring that contract, the customer forces the advisor into an impossible emotional corner. The advisor has to choose between protecting their own life and being perceived as rude or unhelpful. It places an immense, unfair emotional burden on an individual who has already depleted their empathy reserves over the last 10 hours.
Which brings up a really fascinating psychological question. Why doesn't the customer feel an overwhelming sense of guilt?
Right, you would think they would.
Because if I walked into a restaurant as the chairs were being put on the tables, I would feel mortified. Yet, last minute, Sally bangs on the glass with total righteousness. What is happening in her brain?
Well, the source material provides a brilliant, concise breakdown of this phenomenon. It labels it the customer logic loop.
Logic loop.
Yeah. It's a 3-step cognitive process that completely insulates the customer from experiencing any guilt whatsoever. The loop operates like this. Step 1, my car is physically located here.
Okay.
Step 2, I am physically located here right now.
Right.
Step 3, therefore, I should get my car regardless of the time or the operational status of the business.
Right. It is so incredibly rudimentary. My car. Me. Give me.
Exactly.
It completely removes the human element of the transaction.
It does. And that removal is intentional, albeit subconscious. To understand this mindset, we have to examine how modern consumers view a closed business. The text explicitly states that customers do not view a dealership or a repair shop as a complex human operation with interconnected systems, liabilities, and labor laws.
What do they view it as then?
They view it as a vending machine. And what is the expectation of a vending machine? It should dispense the product on demand 24 hours a day as long as you push the right buttons.
That makes total sense, especially when you consider the broader context of our economy right now. I mean, we live in the era of Amazon Prime, instant downloads, 247 digital storefronts.
Yep, everything is instant.
We've been conditioned to believe that commerce is frictionless and timeless. So when Sally encounters a locked door, she is experiencing severe cognitive dissonance.
She's completely time blind.
Right. She doesn't blame her own timing. She blames the physical barrier. As the text says, she blames the lock, not the clock.
That is a critical distinction, because if she can see a human being inside the building, her brain equates that to the business still being operational.
Here's where it gets really interesting, actually. Think about this analogy. It's like arriving after a play has ended. The applause has faded, the curtains are down, house lights are off.
Okay.
You're walking through the parking lot, and you spot the lead actor, dressed in their street clothes, unlocking their car to go home. You jog over, tap them on the shoulder, and demand they walk back into the dark theater, put their costume back on, and perform the final act just for you, simply because the stage is still technically sitting there inside the building.
That is a brilliant comparison.
Because it sounds completely irrational.
Right.
Right. But the logic loop dictates that if the stage exists and the actor is in the building, the play can still be performed.
Exactly. And it happens every single day.
Let's talk about the specific language customers use in these moments too, because the book highlights one specific word that I think anyone who has worked in any form of service will instantly recognize.
Oh, I know exactly what word you're going to say.
It is the most dangerous, manipulative word in the English language, the word just.
Just. The linguistic weight of that single syllable is massive.
It really is. The customer phrasing is always some variation of, I just need my keys, or can't someone just run to the back real quick?
Yeah, just grab it for me.
Right. I love how Brendan Eagle phrases this in the text. He says the word just is doing Olympic-level work in those sentences. It's designed to minimize the massive logistical request being made.
Let's translate what just actually means in operational reality, though.
Please.
When a customer says, I just need to grab my car, they are attempting to make the transaction sound as simple as handing over a pen.
Yeah.
But the expert translation of that request is vastly different. What they are actually demanding is reopen your secure networks, re-authenticate your cashier software, accept legal liability for a $30,000 asset without the support staff present.
Wow.
And most importantly, reopen your evening and stay late entirely for free. Because remember, they're off the clock.
Right.
So the customer uses just to erase the labor involved in their request. It's asking an employee to stay late for free because the customer didn't respect a posted boundary.
Okay, I have a confession, though.
What's up?
Before I read the source material, I might have been slightly sympathetic to last minute Sally. Because, on the surface, handing over a key does seem like it should take 30 seconds. Like, why can't you just grab the key off the board and hand it to her? I can walk up to a gas station pump and swipe my credit card. Why is a dealership or a repair shop any different? Explain the actual mechanism behind the hard stop here.
Okay. This is where we transition from the emotional argument to the rigid, mechanical reality of system processes. It is vital for you, the listener, to understand that the refusal to hand over the keys is not personal. It is process.
Process.
The text outlines the chain of custody for a vehicle repair very clearly. A car is a highly regulated, high-liability asset. You cannot simply hand the keys to a vehicle over without officially closing the repair ticket.
Right, because the keys are fundamentally tied to payment and legal release.
Precisely. And payment is tied directly to the cashier systems and the dealership management software. This is where your gas station analogy breaks down.
Okay, how so?
A gas station pump is an automated, standalone gateway. Dealership and repair shop software is highly complex, legacy accounting infrastructure. At closing time, say 6 p.m., the cashiers execute a process called batching out.
Let me stop you there, because batching out is definitely industry jargon. Break down what that actually means for the average person. Why is batching out a point of no return?
Think of the daily payment system like pouring a concrete foundation.
Okay.
Throughout the business day, that concrete is wet and moldable. Transactions go in, adjustments are made, refunds are processed. It's fluid. But at 6 p.m., the cashier hits a specific command that settles the credit card machines with the merchant bank and balances the entire day's ledger against the internal accounting software.
So it sets.
Yes. At that moment, the concrete cures. It hardens permanently. The daily batch is sent to the bank to ensure the business actually gets paid the thousands of dollars it earned that day.
So if a customer walks in at 6 p.m., and demands to pay for their car,
you can't just swipe their card. You would have to force the system to open a new, isolated transaction. This creates what's called an orphan receipt.
An orphan receipt?
Yeah, it doesn't belong to the finalized day, but technically happen before the next business day opens. In many accounting systems, this causes massive discrepancies. It can trigger fraud alerts, delay the entire day's bank deposit, and require hours of manual reconciliation by the accounting department the next morning.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So asking an advisor to just process one more payment after the batch is settled isn't asking them to push a button. Using our analogy, it's asking them to take a jackhammer to a cured concrete foundation, pour new cement, and wait for it to dry all over again, all while they're supposed to be off the clock.
That makes so much sense. It completely shatters the illusion of the 30-second transaction.
Completely.
And beyond the software, there is the physical liability.
Yeah.
I mean, the service technicians who actually park the cars are gone. What if Sally's car is blocked in by 3 other vehicles in the back lot?
Good luck moving those.
Exactly. What if there is a discrepancy on the invoice and she wants to dispute a charge? The entire safety net of a fully staffed, operational business has been dismantled for the night.
The author hits on this exactly. When a customer demands after-hours service, they are asking the advisor to absorb all of that systemic risk. They are saying, I want you to risk your employment, violate company accounting policies, and take on personal liability for this vehicle solely so I do not have to feel the consequences of my timing.
I think we need to hear what this actually sounds like.
Oh, like a role play.
Yeah, let's script a fully dramatized, tense confrontation. Let's imagine a tired service advisor who has shut everything down, batched the concrete, and suddenly finds themselves face-to-face with a highly difficult last-minute Sally who slipped in through a side door.
Okay, I'll play the tired advisor.
Perfect, and I'll play the difficult customer. Ready?
Yeah. So I am sitting at my desk. My monitor is black. The lights above me are off. My coat is on, and I'm holding my car keys, walking toward the exit.
And I come rushing up from the hallway. I'm slightly out of breath, carrying a heavy purse, and I look instantly annoyed that you are walking away. Oh, good, you're still here. I need to pick up my SUV, the silver one. The name is Sally.
I stop, startled and trying to maintain a polite tone. Oh, ma'am. I am so sorry, but the service department actually closed at 6. The cashiers have all gone home, and our payment systems are completely shut down for the night.
I roll my eyes and let out a very heavy, dramatic sigh. Okay, but I'm here right now. The car's right out back. I saw it through the fence when I drove in. I just need my keys. It'll take 2 seconds. I can see them hanging right there on the wall behind you.
I understand you can see the vehicle and the keys, but I don't have a way to process your final invoice. The accounting software is locked out and batched until tomorrow morning. I physically cannot release the keys without capturing the payment and having you sign the legal release.
Now I'm leaning over the counter, pointing my finger, moving into heavy guilt manipulation. Listen to me. I have to get to work tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. I am a neonatal nurse. I save babies for a living, and I cannot be without my car. You guys are the ones who took all day to fix the brakes in the first place. Can't you just print something real quick, or let me leave you my credit card number on a sticky note? I'll call tomorrow, and you can run it then. I am not leaving this building without my car.
I take a step back, feeling the anxiety spike. Ma'am, I truly apologize for the inconvenience, and I respect what you do, but I am off the clock. Releasing a vehicle without a closed ticket is a massive liability. I could literally lose my job for handing over those keys without processing it through the system. We open at 7 a.m. tomorrow, and we will make you our absolute first priority.
I raise my voice, creating a scene in the empty room. This is absolutely ridiculous. I am standing right in front of you with money. Where is your manager?
Yeah.
I want a manager right now. You are providing terrible customer service.
Unseen. That is the nightmare scenario that plays out in thousands of businesses every evening.
My stomach was genuinely in knots, just pretending to be that customer.
It's stressful.
Let's dissect the tactics I used there, because the manipulation is really layered. First, I used the visual proximity of the keys to argue against your process.
Right. I can see them right there.
Then, I weaponized my profession, being a nurse, to establish moral high ground and induce guilt.
Which happens constantly, by the way. People leverage their jobs, their kids, their medical issues.
And finally, I offered terrible compromises, like leaving a credit card number on a sticky note, which shifts the burden of payment security entirely onto you.
It is a masterclass in deflection. The customer is attempting to make the advisor feel like a villain for enforcing the rules of time and space.
Right.
Notice how the customer's request is entirely self-centered. They are threatening the advisor's livelihood, their job security, just to avoid the friction of having to call an Uber or find a ride to work the next morning.
Which brings us to the most critical pivot point in this entire scenario. In that role play, I demanded a manager.
Yes, you did.
When this confrontation boils over, the outcome and the emotional survival of that advisor depends entirely on who is standing behind them in that office. Let's talk about the role of leadership here.
The source material takes a very hard, direct stance on this. Leadership choices in the micro moments of closing time dictate the macro morale of the entire team.
How so?
Let's imagine a manager hears that shouting match. They walk out of their office, they see the angry nurse, and decide they just want the situation to go away.
To avoid the confrontation.
Right. So they override the system, boot the computer back up, take the payment, and hand over the keys to save the customer experience.
By doing that, they have just completely thrown their own employee under the bus.
They have entirely betrayed the team. The text states a harsh truth here. If management does not respect the advisor's time, the message transmitted to the staff is crystal clear. It tells the employee, your personal life, your family time, and your dignity are optional. Their convenience is not.
Wow. It's the ultimate morale killer.
Exactly.
And let's follow the psychological ripple effect of that manager's decision.
Yeah.
What did that manager just teach last minute, Sally?
They taught her that the posted business hours are fake.
Fake boundaries.
They taught her that if she throws a large enough tantrum and leverages enough guilt, the rules will bend for her.
And what did they teach the advisor? They taught the advisor that company policy only matters until it becomes slightly uncomfortable for management to enforce.
Exactly. It creates a culture of learner helplessness among the staff. I mean, why should the advisor ever try to enforce a boundary if they know management is just going to come out, play the hero, and make the advisor look like an obstructionist jerk?
So how do we fix this broken dynamic? How does a frontline worker handle this without having a panic attack every night at 6 p.m.?
Well, the source material introduces Brandon Eagle's specific coaching strategy for rookies who freeze in the headlights of an angry late customer. And his advice is incredibly grounding. He tells his staff, quote, "You're allowed to let the lock do its job."
I love that. You're allowed to let the lock do its job.
It's a great sentence. It completely removes the burden of rejection from the human being. The lock is not an opinion. It is a physical manifestation of a corporate boundary.
And Brandon builds his coaching on 3 foundational pillars, right? Designed to protect the mental health of his staff.
Yes, 3 pillars.
Let's explore those. What is pillar number 1?
Pillar 1 is stop personalizing their emergency. Brandon reminds his advisors that last minute Sally had access to the exact same posted hours that everyone else did.
She knew when they closed.
She had the same 10-hour window to retrieve her vehicle. Her choice to gamble with her schedule and show up late is not your moral failure. You do not have to absorb her panic into your nervous system.
Not your moral failure.
Yeah.
That is a massive paradigm shift for a customer service worker who has been trained to be a people pleaser. You are allowed to let their lack of planning remain their problem.
Exactly.
What's the second pillar?
Pillar 2 is use the building as your boundary. This is highly practical. If the main doors are locked and the systems are shut down, you do not reopen the night just because someone is waving dramatically through the glass.
Right.
You don't pantomime conversations through the window. The cashier is closed, therefore the answer is we are closed.
And the third pillar, which I completely violated in our bad roleplay scenario, is don't negotiate with guilt.
Right. When the customer hits you with the tragic backstory, I'm a nurse, I can't be without my car, I have to pick up my kids, Brandon provides a very specific conversational framework.
Which is?
You do not argue their logistics. You don't say, well, you should have left earlier.
Right, that just escalates things.
Exactly. You say, I understand it is extremely frustrating. Our payment systems are closed and we cannot legally release vehicles after hours. We will take care of you as soon as we open tomorrow.
Simple and firm.
The text beautifully describes this approach as having empathy in the tone, steel in the policy.
Empathy in the tone, steel in the policy. I want to see that in action. Let's run a second scripted role play.
Let's do it.
Let's rewind the clock. Same scenario. I have slipped through the side door. I am angry. But this time, I want you to apply Brandon's 3 pillars. You be the advisor holding the line.
Okay, I'm ready. I am walking to the exit, keys in hand.
I storm up the hallway. Excuse me. I know you are closed, but the bay door was open. I'm here now, and I need my SUV. Sally, I just need my keys.
I stop. I do not drop my keys or take my coat off. I look directly at you, keeping my voice incredibly calm and measured. Hi, Sally. I understand you are anxious to get your vehicle back, and I know it is incredibly frustrating to arrive right after we've locked the doors. Unfortunately, our cashier systems shut down and batch out automatically at 6 p.m., and the technicians who handle the vehicles have left for the day. We are closed for tonight, but we will be happy to help you first thing at 7 a.m. tomorrow.
Are you kidding me? I have to go to work. I'm a nurse. You're telling me I am stranded here because you won't just turn a computer monitor back on.
I completely hear how stressful that is, and if I had a way to process this for you tonight, I would. But because the accounting systems are batched and offline, I physically cannot release a vehicle after hours. It is a hard lock in our system. I will make sure your paperwork is sitting at the very top of the desk the moment we open tomorrow morning so we can get you on your way immediately.
I narrow my eyes. I'm going to complain to your general manager about this. This is ridiculous.
I give a polite, brief nod. You are absolutely welcome to speak with management tomorrow morning when we reopen, Sally. Have a safe night. And I continue walking out the door. Scene.
Wow. The difference in the energy there was night and day.
Notice how different it felt.
Yeah, you didn't apologize for the existence of the policy, you didn't over-explain the accounting software, and most importantly, you didn't offer any desperate compromises. You just became an immovable wall of extreme politeness.
And notice how I didn't engage with the fact that you were a nurse.
Right.
I acknowledged the stress, but I didn't let your personal life dictate my professional boundaries. The text points out why this specific execution is so critical. Every single time an employee or manager caves to the guilt, they are actively training the next last-minute Sally to try the exact same stunt.
Empathy goes a long way, but it has to start at the top. If it isn't married to firm boundaries, it just becomes a vehicle for customer abuse. And to formalize this entire philosophy, the source material provides what I consider the absolute crown jewel of this chapter. It is a blueprint, almost a manifesto, for both the staff behind the counter and the consumers standing in front of it.
Yes, the 10 rules.
It outlines the 10 rules for managing after-hours service requests.
This list is a masterclass in operational self-respect. It systematically dismantles the entitlement we've been discussing and replaces it with predictable logic. We really need to spend significant time unpacking each of these rules because they offer profound insights into modern consumer psychology.
Absolutely. Let's dive deep into the 10 rules. Rule 1, respect posted hours. And the text drops a fantastic quote here. Closing time is a boundary, not a vibe.
I love that phrasing, not a vibe. In our highly personalized, customized culture, people tend to treat operational rules as mere suggestions. Like it's a vibe that can be negotiated based on their personal charisma or their perceived level of need.
Right, like, oh, they close at 6, but they're chill. I can slide in at 6:10.
Exactly. But Rule 1 shatters that. It establishes that a physical building containing human workers has a hard, unyielding stop. Your schedule as a customer is not a surprise plot twist that requires everyone else in the building to rewrite their evening plans.
It sets the baseline of reality, which leads perfectly into Rule 2. Plan your pickup like an adult, not a main character.
Main character syndrome is the sociological engine driving last-minute Sally. Rule 2 forces the consumer to acknowledge that they exist in a shared physical reality.
There are other people in the world.
Yes. Time is a real construct. Traffic on the highway exists, lines at the cashier desk exist, the fact that you might have a last-minute question about your invoice exists. Failing to account for the friction of reality does not magically create emergency for the staff.
If you are listening to this right now and you know a business closes at 6:40 p.m. and you choose to leave your house at 5:45 p.m. for a 20-minute drive,
You're going to be late.
you are not a victim of traffic. You are making a conscious choice to be late. You are gambling that the business will bend for you. And when you lose that gamble, you cannot demand the house pay you out anyway.
Exactly. Which brings us to Rule 3, which is visually hilarious but addresses a serious safety issue. Don't stock the building.
Stop acting like it's a heist movie.
Right. We touched on this earlier, but it is so true. Why do perfectly normal, law-abiding citizens suddenly turn into cat burglars when a retail store is closed?
It's so weird. They circle the perimeter, they peer through cracks in the blinds, they yank violently on heavy glass doors.
If you saw someone doing that to a private residence, you would dial 911 immediately.
Without hesitation.
But because it is a place of commerce, people feel entitled to physically test the security of the building. Rule 3 is a reality check. Yanking on locked doors does not make you look determined. It makes you the reason commercial security cameras were invented. If the department is closed, the game is over. Go home and come back tomorrow.
Now, Rules 4 and 5 shift the focus away from the physical building and deal directly with the process and the human beings trapped inside. Rule 4, keys follow payment, not your tragic backstory.
This rule is the armor for the service advisor. We talked extensively about the concrete analogy and the batching out of systems. The text is unyielding on this point. Emotional monologues don't reboot closed software.
They really don't.
Unless there is a prearranged, signed agreement to leave a key in a lockbox, vehicles are only released after the financial transaction is complete. The accounting software does not have a module for your tears, your anger, or your job title. It only recognizes closed invoices.
It is the ultimate equalizer. And Rule 5 humanizes the other side of that transaction. Rule 5, advisors are humans, not hostages.
This might be the most empathetic rule in the book. It forces the customer to recognize the person behind the uniform. Service advisors have kids waiting for dinner.
Yeah.
They have pets that need to be let out. They have spouses, second jobs, long commutes. Their lives do not orbit around your delayed arrival. Expecting them to sacrifice their personal time is not demanding great customer service. It is you, the customer, loudly announcing, "My time has inherent value. Yours does not.
That entitlement is what Brandon Eagle is aggressively targeting. And Rule 6 continues that exact thought process. Don't ask staff to donate personal time so you don't feel the consequence of your choices. Don't ask them to break the process just this once.
There's that word just again.
Always.
Rule 6 explains that when you ask an employee to just run back and grab the car, you are asking them to defy company policy, override secure systems, and risk disciplinary action so that you are insulated from the friction of your own choices. If fulfilling a customer's late request requires reopening batch systems or resummoning staff who have already clocked out, the answer must be a hard institutional no.
Which leads us to the natural conclusion of that no, which is Rule 7. Accept the consequence, not just the convenience. Accept the cause and effect.
Right. If you arrive after the doors are locked, the only honest, appropriate answer from the business is, we will see you tomorrow.
And the text makes a profound philosophical point here. Hearing "see you tomorrow" is not a punishment.
No, it's not.
It is not poor customer service. It is simply the mechanics of cause and effect. You miss the operational window, as the author brilliantly and bluntly puts it. The universe remains undefeated.
I love that quote. The universe remains undefeated. You cannot argue with linear time.
You really can't. Now, Rules 8 and 9 pivot away from the customer and are directed squarely at the management team. And honestly, these might be the most critical rules for the long-term health and profitability of a business. Rule 8, management's duty. Back your advisors, not the drama.
This is a direct challenge to the weak leadership we discussed in that bad role play. When last-minute Sally storms the desk and starts escalating the situation, the manager has to actively resist the urge to play the hero at the team's expense.
It's so tempting for them, though.
Oh, it is. But every single time a manager caves for a one-time save to quiet down a yelling customer, they fracture the trust of their employees.
Yeah.
You mutate strict corporate policy into a mere suggestion, and you broadcast to your staff that you will not protect them.
It creates a totally toxic workplace. Stop turning policy into a suggestion.
Right.
So how does a manager de-escalate the customer without betraying the staff? That is Rule 9. Lead with empathy, not enablement.
Rule 9 provides the behavioral roadmap for leaders. A manager can be incredibly kind, validating, and professional while still holding the line. Walking out to the lobby and saying, "I am so sorry you missed us. I know you need this car, and we will take phenomenal care of you the absolute second we open tomorrow." That is demonstrating empathy.
But dragging your team back to their desks to reopen systems because a customer threatened to leave a bad Yelp review.
That is enablement. That is martyrdom. And the text issues a very strong command to managers regarding this behavior. Don't volunteer your staff as tribute.
Volunteer your staff as tribute. It is such a visceral image, right out of the Hunger Games.
Seriously.
It perfectly captures that helpless feeling an employee has when a manager sacrifices their evening just to appease an unreasonable consumer.
It is a profound failure of leadership.
And finally, we arrive at Rule 10, which circles back to the customer's self-awareness. Rule 10, legacy. Behavior writes its own review.
We spend so much time in modern commerce talking about customers reviewing businesses. We obsess over 5-star ratings and online feedback. But this rule reminds consumers that businesses and the humans who run them remember customers too.
Oh, they definitely do.
If you consistently show up late, demand exceptions, and leverage guilt against the staff, you do not gain the status of a valued guest.
You become a warning label. Don't become the cautionary tale in a training meeting.
Precisely. You become last minute, Sally. You become the cautionary tale. The staff sees your name on the schedule and their blood pressure spikes. The text issues a final challenge to the consumer. Choose how you want to be remembered in the world. Do you want to be known as the rational adult who respected boundaries? Or do you want to be the punchline of the legend titled, "That One Time at Closing"?
Looking at these 10 rules holistically, what's fascinating here is how brilliantly they balance the scales. They manage to do two completely different things simultaneously. On one hand, they protect managers from the pressure of becoming martyrs. On the other hand, they deeply support the mental health of the frontline staff without ever requiring them to be rude or aggressive.
Yeah, it's a complete framework. It removes the heat, the emotion, and the guilt from the end of the day.
It really does.
That is the ultimate value of the source material. It replaces the chaos of emotional manipulation with the calm predictability of clear consequences. When everyone, both staff and consumer, understands and respects the hard boundary of closing time, the entire interaction becomes depersonalized. It is no longer a battle of wills. It is simply an acknowledgement of reality.
As we start to bring this deep dive to a close, let's recap the core themes we've pulled from Brandon Eagle's work. The overarching lesson that resonates through every page of this chapter is that last-minute pickups are rarely about an actual unsolvable logistical need. Yes, people need their cars, but the crisis of 6 p.m. is almost entirely manufactured by entitlement.
It's all about entitlement.
It is the deep-seated entitlement of assuming that an employee's time is inherently less valuable than a customer's convenience. The importance of maintaining professional boundaries at work just can't be overstated.
It really can't. And this highlights the absolute non-negotiable importance for staff to protect their personal life after clocking out. We cannot overstate the psychological necessity for service industry staff to aggressively protect that time. The transition from worker back to human being is sacred.
Yeah.
Brandon Eagle's takeaway serves as the ultimate permission slip for service workers everywhere. The message is clear. You do not owe the late customer your evening. You owe yourself the right to have an evening.
And if you are the customer standing on the outside of that glass, your problem is not with the service advisor who won't open the door. Your problem is with the clock. You lost the race against time today, and that is okay. You try again tomorrow. I want to highlight the ultimate takeaway quote from the text because it summarizes the philosophy of this entire deep dive perfectly. The author writes, "If you only respect a boundary when it serves you, it was never the boundary you valued, only the shortcut."
That is a staggering truth. And it is a truth that applies far beyond the walls of a dealership service department. It applies to our relationships, our digital communication, and how we navigate society as a whole. Which leaves us with a final provocative thought for you, the listener, to mull over as you go about your week.
What's the question we should be asking ourselves?
Well, in an era where we can click a button on a screen and buy something online 24 hours a day, where algorithms cater to our every impulse instantly, have we as a society forgotten how to interact with real physical human beings who have actual closing times?
That's a great question.
When you see a locked door, do you immediately see that lock as a hostile barrier to your convenience? Or are you capable of seeing it as a necessary boundary, quietly protecting someone else's humanity?
That is a perspective shift that changes everything. Think about that the next time you find yourself cupping your hands to the glass, peering into a dark lobby like a confused raccoon. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.
Stay tuned. Up next, we have Dakota Freeman and Lauren Miller, who disagree with some of the situations while they host Discover You Radio's Discussions, the debate segment.
Don't get caught up in old school corporate service manual training, the funky one. Get Your Guide to Customer Service by Brandon Eagle and get caught up today. You can find it on Amazon and Kindle.
Stay tuned for Dakota Freeman and Lauren Miller as they get into an intense debate regarding the subject matter as they give two separate opinions. Did you know that good customer service starts with being a good customer? Get Your Guide to Customer Service by Brandon Eagle. You can find it in paperback on Amazon, or you can download it on your Kindle.
Welcome to the debate. Welcome to episode number 45 of the debate, where we share our disagreements with logical thinking about chapter 2, titled The Last Minute Pickup, of Brandon Eagle's book called Your Guide to Customer Service, the Mirror Edition. And before we jump in, I have to give a special shout out.
Oh, definitely. You're talking about the recent segment from the deep dive, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it was just so impressive. The deep dive by Robert Simmons and Rita Fox was just phenomenal. And I actually had the privilege to be in the room while they recorded their segment.
That is so cool.
It really was. So I took extensive notes, and that totally inspired our discussion today. They basically broke down the underlying mechanics of service operations. So picture the scene. It's 6:05 p.m.
The absolute worst time of day in the service drive.
Right? The final repair order is closed, the main dealership lights are shutting off, the computers are logging out, and a new service advisor is finally grabbing their code after, a grueling 10-hour shift.
Exhausting, and then you hear it.
Yep, the sound. A frantic, aggressive knock on the glass of the service drive door. A customer is standing there, pointing at their repaired vehicle parked just 20 feet away, demanding their keys.
The classic last-minute Sally scenario.
Exactly. For the new service advisors entering the automotive industry and the service managers responsible for training these new department employees, this exact moment is the crucible. It forces the central question we're debating today. Should management ever override service policies and posted business hours to please unhappy customers who arrive after the doors are locked?
It is such a critical question.
It really is. And my perspective is absolute. Management must strictly enforce closing boundaries and system shutdowns to protect staff time and break the cycle of customer entitlement.
Right. And I look at that exact same scenario, the dark lobby, the desperate customer, the new advisor caught in the middle, and I draw a very different conclusion. I'll argue from the manager's perspective that while boundaries matter, management must retain the ability to make exceptions for customers with genuine, urgent needs without forcing the burden onto the advisors.
Okay, but to understand why that approach is so dangerous, we have to look at the mechanical reality of what happens at closing time. Because customer convenience, it never justifies ignoring posted business hours.
Never? That's a strong word.
Never. Because the dealership is no longer functionally capable of releasing that vehicle. Eagle captures this perfectly with what he calls the customer logic loop.
Oh, right. The visual equation thing?
Yes. When a late customer pulls in, they see the building, they see a human inside, and they see their car. In their mind, that simple visual equation equals immediate entitlement.
Because to them, it looks simple. My car is there. Give it to me.
Exactly. But what they don't see, and what new advisors must be taught to fiercely defend, is the technical infrastructure. Cashier software shutdowns make after-hours customer releases functionally impossible.
I mean, I get that.
Right, because keys are intrinsically tied to payment, and payment is tied to secure, closed accounting systems. The day is done.
Okay, let's get into a rapid-fire look at this technical reality, though. Because I understand the framework you're referencing, but systems are ultimately tools designed to serve the business, right? They aren't absolute authorities that dictate human behavior.
But they do dictate operational reality. No payment equals no release. No system equals no transaction. Reopening payment systems after the shift is ended isn't just like an inconvenience.
Well, it's a hassle, sure.
It's more than a hassle. It breaks process and introduces real business liability. You can't just hand over keys without officially closing the ticket in the dealership management system.
I'm not saying you just throw them the keys and wave goodbye. If a customer is desperately in need, management has alternative tools.
Like what? The system is off.
A manager can utilize prearranged setups. They can process a secure manual capture of the credit card, document the physical release, and then finalize the digital transaction the next morning.
But that manual override is exactly what causes the liability. When a repair order is open, the dealership holds the legal liability for that vehicle.
Which is why a competent manager handles the paperwork.
Even with paperwork, if that car isn't closed out in the system and they get into an accident at the intersection down the street, your insurance is on the hook. You're violating merchant agreements. You are risking multi-million-dollar operational integrity to save one person from their own poor planning.
You're framing every late arrival as a failure of planning, which entirely ignores the chaotic nature of life.
I mean, it usually is poor planning.
Usually. Maybe. But true emergencies happen. And the liability you're talking about is precisely why the manager exists. Leadership is about managing risk, not avoiding it entirely.
But you're missing the psychological impact on the customer. Eagle uses this great analogy in the text, the vending machine analogy.
Right, the vending machine.
Yeah. If management overrides the system, they validate the customer's view of the service department as a vending machine. Drop a quarter in, get a soda immediately, regardless of the time. But a dealership is a complex logistical operation. It's like the doors of a commercial airplane.
Okay, the airplane comparison is a bit much.
No, it works perfectly. Once the gate agent closes that door, it doesn't matter if you're knocking on the glass of the terminal. Opening it breaks the seal, violates FAA protocols, and disrupts everyone else. The closed sign is the sealed door. Forcing it open fundamentally undermines the purpose of closing times.
The airplane analogy breaks down, though, because leaving a passenger at the gate doesn't deprive them of their own essential property. They just miss a flight.
It's still a boundary.
But in our scenario, we are holding a family's primary mode of transportation hostage over a 15-minute technicality. We have to argue the case for customers who believe they deserve exceptions for urgent needs.
But holding it hostage implies we did something wrong. They were late.
Think about Eagle's description. The customer peering through the glass like a confused raccoon. Their car is physically right there. Leaving them stranded severely damages the business's reputation.
Does it, though? Or does it just teach them the rules?
It damages trust. Overriding a policy for an urgent need is an act of high-level customer service, not a betrayal of the staff. If they spend $3,000 a year with you, losing them over a rigid software shutdown is a profound failure of business strategy.
You cannot weigh the lifetime value of a client against the daily value of the employee's well-being. This is exactly why we need to direct this debate specifically to help new advisors defend their time and schedule.
I agree we need to protect the advisors.
Then you have to enforce the boundary. When that clock hits 6 p.m., their personal life is not optional. They might be rushing to avoid late fees at daycare pickups or trying to make a doctor's appointment.
I'm not saying the advisor should stay.
But by keeping the shop open, you're saying their time is flexible. Brandon Eagle has a coaching rule for this. Empathy in the tone, steel in the policy. You can be kind and still say no.
Right, but
When management caves, they aren't playing hero. They are practicing what Eagle calls martyrdom and volunteering their staff as tribute. Every time management caves, they train the next last-minute Sally. The rules are just suggestions.
okay, wait, how is the staff volunteered as tribute if the manager is the one stepping in to take over?
What do you mean?
I mean, this is exactly what we need to discuss for the managers listening. I completely agree that advisors shouldn't be guilt-tripped. But a manager taking over a late pickup actually protects the new advisor.
It undermines them.
No, it doesn't. The manager absorbs the rule breaking. The manager says, I'll handle this release, you go home. That allows the rookie to leave, proving that management can both support the employee's schedule and save the desperate customer.
I mean, sure, the advisor physically goes home that night, but behavioral conditioning is happening here
Conditioning for who?
for the customer. Even if the manager takes over, the behavioral lesson to the customer remains. Eagle says it best, if you only respect a boundary when it serves you, it was never the boundary you valued, only the shortcut.
But the customer was in a crisis.
The customer learns that throwing a fit works. You aren't protecting the advisor from future stress. You're guaranteeing they'll face a more entitled, more aggressive version of that customer next month who will just demand to see the manager immediately.
Look, we have to distinguish between blatant entitlement and genuine human crisis. If someone is pounding on the glass because they couldn't be bothered to leave Starbucks on time, I agree. Let the lock do its job.
Exactly. Let the lesson land.
But if someone is standing there in tears because they were at the emergency room and they need their vehicle to get their kid to a specialist the next morning, standing behind the shield of cashier software shutdowns is a failure of basic humanity.
The fatal flaw in that approach is that it requires your staff to become judges of trauma.
It's just having empathy.
But in a dark lobby at 6:10 p.m., the distinction between a real crisis and a manufactured one is completely subjective. Every single late customer acts like their delay was an act of God.
Well, they're stressed.
Right. They stalk the building. They yank on locked doors. Eagle points out they treat getting their car like a heist movie. If you require your staff to evaluate the legitimacy of a customer's personal crisis, you are putting an impossible emotional burden on them. It's emotional triage.
That is exactly why the manager takes over. You teach the rookie to stop personalizing the emergency. You coach them, if it's past 6:00 p.m., bring it to me. The manager absorbs the subjective decision-making.
But that still leaves the business operating on shifting sands. The standard has to be objective. This is how management should support staff against entitlement by backing the system.
You think hiding behind the computer is good leadership?
I think the technical shutdown is a gift. It removes emotion from the equation entirely. You teach new advisors to use the building as a boundary. If the system is off, they are off. You do not owe a elite customer your evening.
I counter that. Falling back on the computer won't let me is the weakest form of customer service. It creates an adversarial relationship.
It creates a professional boundary.
It makes the customer feel the business cares more about its software than its patrons. A service manager must reserve the right to override policies for genuine crises. Yes, it takes effort and manual paperwork, but that's how you build deep, unshakable trust within your community.
You build a loyal client base through consistency and reliability. You cannot train the public to respect your time if you show them that your time is for sale to the loudest knocker. Honoring software shutdowns and posted hours is the only way to establish true boundaries.
So you're just summarizing your stance as zero exceptions, period.
Yes, It's the only way to protect the personal lives of the advisors and stop the cycle of entitlement.
And I will summarize by saying that while new advisors absolutely must be protected and allowed to leave, management cannot run a successful business on rigid absolutes. We have to reserve the nuanced right to override policies for genuine crises.
Well, we clearly disagree on the execution of management overrides, but I think we do converge on Brandon Eagle's core premise.
Oh, absolutely.
New advisors must never be made to feel guilty for honoring the clock. The anxiety they feel when a late customer is staring them down is natural, but it's misplaced. Last-minute Sally behavior is a failure of customer planning, not a moral failing of the advisor.
I stand firmly with you there. Management must always ensure staff are not held hostage by a customer's lack of time awareness. You can be deeply empathetic without sacrificing your employees' mental health.
It's true. Balancing strict systemic boundaries with human empathy is arguably one of the most challenging aspects of entering the automotive industry.
It really takes discipline.
It does. And there is so much more to explore in Brandon Eagle's text regarding how these end-of-day interactions shape long-term business culture.
It forces every dealership to ask what they value more: absolute adherence to process or the flexibility to handle the human element.
Exactly. So, to all the new advisors and the managers tasked with guiding them, we leave the ultimate decision to you. When the systems batch out and that shadow appears at the glass, where will you draw the line? Thank you for joining us on The Debate.
It's 10 after 6, you're clocked out, the registers are shut down, and there's that customer peeking through the window like a lost raccoon. Get your guide to customer service by Brandon Eagle. He addresses this. You can find it on Amazon and Kindle.
Thank you for listening to Discover You Radio's Discussions. We'd like to invite you to research who was spotlighted on this episode. And if they have a website, join their mailing list. Because listeners like you made it possible. Thank you for your support.